Virginia Congressman Gerry Connolly died this morning. He served parts of Northern Virginia for more than 40 years. His family making that announcement this morning as he lost his battle to cancer. Former Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe joining us here on the DMV Zone with more. Governor, good to see you. Thank you for joining us today under these circumstances.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Let's talk about the congressman. He had, in recent time, achieved a ranking position on the Oversight Committee. He clearly had so many goals still, but he started in Fairfax County, as we said, 40 years of legacy for the Commonwealth. I'm sure you all worked hand in hand many, many times. Share some stories of the late congressman.
Yeah, listen, Maria, first of all, he's going to be greatly missed. He, had been chairman of the Oversight Committee, a lot of seniority. So important for us here in the DMV. The biggest thing you take away from Gerry Connolly is federal workers did not have a better supporter or fighter for them than Gerry Connolly. He fought for the pay raises. He fought for job security, fought for benefits for our federal workers. All my conversations with Gerry, he would talk about our federal workers as patriots, not as workers, but as patriots to make our government run more efficiently. And you think of all the issues with DOGE and the cuts. We need Gerry right now, and we're going to miss him greatly. Also, he was huge. He had a great background as an executive, as chairman of the Fairfax board. He was chair for 5 years. Infrastructure, I worked with him when I was governor on the Silver Line extension, rebuilding 66, doing the new rail passages we had. So, he was someone who got up every single day and say, we're going to fight, we're going to get this done, I'm going to fight for you. He was a great Irishman. He had the greatest St. Patty's Day party of anybody in Congress every year. I'm going to miss him greatly, but it is a real loss for the DMV because of what he meant to the federal workers and what he meant for infrastructure in this region.
Yeah, we know that he had stepped down just recently, about a month ago, from that oversight position, given the diagnosis. But again, his signature, his legacy, and his footprint and fingerprint left behind much of Fairfax County and, of course, in Northern Virginia, the Mosaic District, the Silver Line, as you say. And moving forward here, I know that he had stepped down from that oversight position. There had already been in works talks about what is next for his district, for his community. You're very involved in the Democratic Party of the Commonwealth. What do you know?
Well, listen, we've got a great congressional delegation, two great senators, rest of the congressional delegation. They're going to be able to fill that void. But I'm telling you, it's so important right now with all of these horrible cuts and the rollback of all the federal contracts for people that have been laid off in Virginia and in Maryland and in D.C. It's just horrible for people's lives. Gerry was the fighter to say, here's what we're going to do to protect further cuts. Here's what we're going to do to help you find new jobs, and he's going to be missed. So I just think it's incumbent now to take that Gerry Connolly spirit to make sure we're out fighting for those people most in need in this federal workforce that we have. We're #1 in the country on federal workers. As Gerry said, they're patriots. He was their fighter. He was their champion. We need to make sure that we continue in that Gerry Connolly legacy going forward to make sure we're helping all these great people who work for our federal government.
Really sad time for the country, for Congress, especially for the House of Representatives, losing 3 congressmen just this year to battles like Congressman Connolly's. Incredibly sad there. You hate to talk politics in this moment because clearly it's too soon, but still the country needs to keep working, needs to keep going. We know that Jamie Raskin had stepped down to that oversight ranking position. Then there was that slim vote there between Gerry Connolly and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and now the fight again to get that ranking position from a Democrat. Where do you foresee that happening? Gerry Connolly was able to take on that position over Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Some people saying too skewed to the left for this Democratic Party. Again, you're very involved in this Democratic Party. What do we know right now on the Hill as we continue, like you said, with the DOGE cuts, that oversight committee holding that very important role of keeping the executive in line? What's next?
Well, listen, we the Democrats, we got to get out with a positive message. As governor, I talked about job creation every single day, record investments in healthcare, education. I worked with Gerry on rebuilding 66. I worked with Gerry on the work on the Memorial Bridge. The things that affected people's lives every single day, Marina. And that's what Gerry Connolly did. Common sense approaches to helping people in their lives, focused on things that matter to people. And listen, it's a tough time now with all the insanity of the Trump administration and all of these cuts. There are people, You know, I have neighbors here in Northern Virginia. They've worked their whole lives for the federal government. It was their greatest honor, and they did a great job, and they've just been laid off. And I see them talking to them in the coffee shops. What am I going to do? I'm laid off now. We got to get out there and continue to fight for these people. Common sense, job creation, making sure the government works for them. And not, you know, people didn't elect Elon Musk to go in and get your NIH health records. They didn't go and want, you know, Donald Trump or Elon Musk to get your tax records. We got to stop the insanity. We got to get back to helping people. We're the greatest nation on earth, and we got to get back to common sense approaches and helping people's lives. That's the spirit of Gerry Connolly. And to be honest with you, I'm going to have a little Guinness tonight in honor of Gerry Connolly. He was one of my favorite Irishmen.
I think he would appreciate that. Governor, thank you for joining us here on the DMV Zone. Before we go, can we expect you out on the campaign trail for Abigail Spanberger?
100%. I've already been out. We've got primaries coming up. I'm glad you mentioned that, folks. Early vote has started. We don't have a primary for governor, but we do for lieutenant governor and attorney general. Please, please show we're the greatest democracy. Just go vote before June 17th. That's the election day in the primaries. I'm out there campaigning. Let's show the world we're the greatest democracy in the world. You can't do it unless you vote.
Hopefully you'll join us here in studio for a much more extensive conversation. We'd love to have you. Governor, good to see you.
Thank you. Great to be with you, Maria.
All right, let's move on to topic number 2.